fistful of lead, bigger battles, thar's doings afoot in the town of Pucklechurch, which is located in merry old England near Bristol. I just like the name Pucklechurch. Commander Beans on Toast over here has been dispatched to investigate the strange doings. He can't see what's going on just yet, and neither can you. Before we get down to look at things from his point of view, let's take a look at the terrain real quick. We've got a couple little copses of woods. The buildings, they all block line of sight. The walls do not block line of sight. The fields are rough going, slowed by half. The swamps are also rough going, slowed by half. You can see across the fields and the swamps. All of these stone walls and all of the hedges, we're just going to keep it simple. They're all, actually, I tell you what, because we have stone walls, we're going to make the stone walls hard cover. The hedges are light cover, but either way, if you want to get over those walls, it's going to cost you to get from here to here is going to cost you 2 inches of movement. Remember, our foot boys can only move a half an inch at a time. The horses will say cannot cross. Well, we got to allow them to cross. I guess we'll just say it's an extra inch of movement for them as well. Now, looking at the British force that's been dispatched, our commander is encouraging. He's got a sword and he's got a pistol that has a very short range, 3 inches, 6 inches, and it has to be reloaded. He is solid. He will only fall back if he's forced to regroup. He may wind up attaching to a unit before. We haven't done that yet. Also, because he is a commander, he's treated as a hero. These guys roll 1 die on attacks for every wound they have. We haven't played with that yet here in the House of Wargaming, but we might get a chance to today. We've got light cavalry. They're agile and slippery. We've got a light cannon, fires 9 inches. Actually, up to 6 inches, it rerolls misses, because it's like canister shot. Fires 9 inches at short range and then 18 inches at long range. They're only rolling 3 dice because it's a light cannon. And then we have 1 unit of line infantry. Now, I made a little change to the line infantry. They are going to be ranged fighters, which means now I had been using eagle-eyed, but this time around, they're going to be rolling D12 when they shoot and D8 in melee combat. They are primarily shooty boys. And then, of course, we've got our rifled muskets, a little longer range, 6 inches close, 12 inches long range. They ignore terrain because the rangers and their skirmishers, they can move and shoot on the same turn without penalty. One of the things I've been doing wrong here, confession time, in this game, if you move and shoot, you're at -1. If you just stand there and shoot, you are at even Stevens. Unless, if you're in close order, if these guys form 2 ranks, 6 across, they can only move forward or wheel in place. That's all they can do on that turn for the action. But if they are in close order and they do not move, then they get the +1. I had just been anytime they don't move. No. If you are irregular, if you're not in close order, you don't get that bonus when you don't move. That is different from some of the other titles, from the skirmish titles, in which if you do take an action to aim, then you get the +1. Not the case in this rule set. So I've been playing things a little bit deadly. I don't think it unbalanced things too much because I've been doing it for both sides of every single encounter. And that's about it. So let's go take a look at things from the point of view of Commander Beans on Toast. I have 1 Joker in the deck. When that card comes up, it's treated as an ace, but a random encounter will happen. There's an event table in the Bigger Battles book. We're going to use that this time around and see how that works. I am going to start off by dealing 2 cards, 1 to the skirmishers, 1 to the commander. Then I'm going to throw 1 into the center of town. That's going to be for the enemy that I still haven't revealed. So our skirmishers get a 10, our commander gets a +1 to shooting, and our threat that we are investigating gets a 9. So we're going to bring our commander. He wants to get a good look at what's going on over here. We're going to bring him up 8 inches to here. And we're going to bring our skirmishers into the woods here, because that's what they do. So 5 inches will bring them right up to here. And then, for the threat, I have to roll a single D10, and something happens on a 7 or better. Skirmishers have moved up. I know some of you are thinking, why do your skirmishers have a big old flag? Aren't they like ambushers or whatnot? Yeah, well, I needed 10 of them. I only have 9, so I threw a flag in there to make up the numbers. Looking for a 7 or higher. On a 10, something happens. Dun, dun, dun. The commander catches sight of furtive movements in the graveyard. And as he rounds the corner, 12 skeletons clamber over the walls towards him. They're gonna spend their first action. So here's the deal. Oh, it's our old friend, the Necromancer, is in the graveyard summoning undead. He has summoned the first unit of spearmen. These are skeletons. And wait a minute, you're combining fantasy with Napoleonics? Are you stealing from Silver Bayonet? I'm sorry, do you even flintlock, bro? Fantasy Napoleonics has been around for a long time. I am stealing from the best. These skeletons, now our wizard fella is a veteran. He's going to be summoning on a 7-up because he is smart, so he gets a +1 to all of his task rolls. And he has a bodyguard, so he can apply any wounds to any that he takes to any unit within 3 inches. And he's armed with a flamethrower. Now, really, it's a death thrower. It's like a magic spell, but it counts as a flamethrower. It does the teardrop, and once we zoom out, I'll show you exactly how that works. For now, what you need to understand is that we have 1 unit of skeletons, and the Necromancer has at his disposal a total of 4 units, 2 skeletons, 2 zombies. These skeletons, now all of the undead are soulless. You get a +1 when you shoot at them, but they ignore all shock results. The skeletons in this case, I'm not using the profiles that are given in the rulebook. Instead, I'm giving them the ability that, well, of course, they're brittle, so they're -1 on their wound checks, but they are scary. After every melee combat they participate in, their opponent takes 1 shock. And I'm giving them the big old bag of bones. These guys are just bones, so when you shoot at them, they get an 8+ save. Altogether, that's about 2.5 abilities, so I'm not quite sure about the balance on this. The zombies, on the other hand, they're all green, so they're rolling d8s on all of their melee rolls. And they get a melee save. So you shoot at them, they'll take wounds as normal, but when you're in hand-to-hand combat with those guys, they are going to get an 8-up save. The zombies are also slow. There are all of our profiles. Now it's time. I'm going to have to zoom out and show you the entire battlefield so we can see what happens next. Our wizard friend has a very real possibility that this is the only unit he summons. He's got to take his full turn to summon a unit on a 7-up. So in order to balance that a little bit, instead of the highest card, I'm going to deal 3 cards to our cavalry, infantry, and cannon, and whoever gets the lowest card is going to be the one that comes on at a random point. So we get a 10 for the cavalry, a 7 for the infantry, and a 9 for the cannon, which means the infantry will come on the 7, and that is their first action, coming on the 7. So tuck that right there so we can see it. Then I'm going to deal out a card for our skirmishers and then the commander. Skirmishers get the wild, commander gets the 3. Over here I need to deal 1 for the wizard on the queen, and our skeletons go on the 6. Bad news for our commander, because that means that he is exposed to this big mass of skeletons. Before we go any further, let's do one more thing. Let's figure out, wander over and grab a d6. As I said, our infantry are going to come on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5. So the infantry are going to come over. How convenient. They're right there. All right, so everybody's coming up that road. Then we need to do this ace. We got to go first. Moving on the king of spades. These skirmishers are going to have to move up here to block our commander and make sure we keep him protected. Our wizard is going to have to summon all of his units. They're going to take their first action to crawl out of the ground, and then their second action will be to leave, if they so choose, will be to leave the graveyard. He is going on the queen, and he's got to roll that d10 and hope for a 7 or better. He gets an 8, so he brings on a second unit, and he will opt for a unit of zombies this time. And we're going to drop those zombies on this side of the graveyard. Oh boy, yep, they're zombies. What do you expect? Stand up. Guess I should have used slightly bigger washers, huh? So that's the wizard's turn. Then we have to do the infantry over here. They have opted to enter and then swing around this side. They're regular. I should point out the zombies and the skeletons are both irregulars. They're going to be hitting on 6s, except the zombies, again, they are unarmed, so they're at -1. In combat, they're only going to be hitting on 7s. These skeletons now have the option, hey, free reload, all they have is spears. They're going to charge into combat with these skirmishers. And I'm just going to move 3 guys up for now, because we may have to kind of pull back or deal with some funness there. Now, there's no time limit on this. We're just going to fight and see what happens. We do have a total of 12 skeletons. I've got 12 D20 here. Remember, on D20s, just subtract 10 if it's more than 10. They're going to be hitting, as I said. Now, check my roster. Just make sure I'm getting it all down. They are soulless. They got the bag of bones. They're brittle. They're scary. Right. So these guys are automatically going to have a shock. What? Undead? That's crazy, man. So the 12 dice, these guys are going to be hitting on, normally it would be on 6s, but because they charged, they're on the attack, they're going to be hitting on 5s. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits out of the 12. We roll for wound, and there's no modifiers to this time. They are not ferocious. They get a total of 1, 2, 3 shock, 4 shock altogether, in addition to the bonus. And then they do a total of 4 wounds. So I'm taking 4 guys off, and I'm dropping another 4 shock down on the table, which is not as bad as it seems. Now, since these guys have lost. Well, wait a minute. We don't know that yet. We'll just drop them down. What did I say? It's going to be 4 shock, 4 dead. So they've got a total of 5 shock. Then the skirmishers get to fight back. Now there's 10 of them. So we take out a couple of the obnoxious D20s that I have. I really need to hit the game store and up my D20 game, I think. This guy's not so easy to read. So there we go. We got 10 dice. The skirmishers now are fighting with bayonets, and they are regulars. They're going to be hitting on 5s. Unless I'm missing something. Nope, hitting on 5s. I believe there's a rule that says if you're in melee and you haven't fired your muskets, you get a bonus for that. But I don't remember what it is, so I'm not going to use it right now. They get a total of only 1 miss. Is that right? Is that a 9? It is. That is pretty impressive. So we're going to roll 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 dice for the wounds on the skeletons, and these are going to be at +1 because they are in melee. And no save. That's only when they're shooting at them. This might work out pretty well. We get now we ignore shock because skeletons are soulless. We get a total of 2, 3, 4, 5, and then these 2 4s become 5s. So that's going to be 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 all together. So 4 to 7 means the skeletons are thrown back. These guys, if they want to, can move up and take the skeletons' place. We're going to throw... So first of all, let's go ahead and take off 7 of these skeletons. There's only going to be 5 of them left. And then they are going to... Oh, I forgot. They are irregular, so they will fall back a total of 3 inches, and we'll fall them back to here. Good matchup to start the game for the British. Then on the commander's turn, he is encouraging. He can use both of his actions to wipe out all of these shock. And that is kind of impressive. Without waiting around, I went ahead and dealt out some cards. Our reinforcements are going to be, I got a 7 for the cavalry and an 8 for the cannon, which means the cavalry are going to come on the 7s. The first action of the day, and then it's 6 for the commander. I'm sorry. 7 for the cavalry, 8 for the line infantry, 6 for the commander, 3 for our skirmishers, and then we got a 5 for the skeletons and a pair of 10s. Our wizard is going to cast his death spell. This is a lovely universal template that you can get from Wiley Games, and it has a large teardrop shape for flamethrowers if you are using the full-scale 28 millimeters. I think you can see right here, this is the half. What's going on there? Thanks, Power Company. That's the half-size teardrop. Since I'm playing in a half-size, I'm going to use this teardrop shape. Now, normally, you would be hitting on this, and I think the guys get like a save. Oh! Yeah, normally that would get a save. What I'm going to do is borrow from previous games. We're going to drop this down, and we're going to hit 3 guys under the template, and 1 guy is going to be... Did I get that right? He's going to get 3 guys fully under. Nope, I got that wrong. So the guys that are fully under are going to be hit on a 5-up. The 2 guys that are partially under will be hit on a 2-up. So I got 3 dice that are bluish, and I've got an orange and a red dice. The blues are going to hit on 5s. The red dice and the orange dice will hit on an 8. If we get more 1s than hits, he has burnt out. The flamethrower would be out of power. He's out of mojo. We get a total of a single 1, so that's not an issue. 10, 8, 2. This is a miss. So we get a total of 3 hits altogether. Rolling for wound status. And we get a 1, 8, and a 10, and a 20. Now, the 1 means somebody gets a shock. The 8 and the 20, so we're going to drop a shock down on these guys. Normally, you're rolling on the wound chart. 20 means 2 guys died, but because you're rolling for each individual fella, whether it's a wound or a kill doesn't make any difference. So I'm going to pull off these 2 guys off the back, and that's going to be basically that spell does 1 shock and 2 wounds. However, because it's terrifying, they get a shock. Not only that, but any friendly unit within 3 inches also gets a shock. Our commander is like, what? I had no idea that was even possible. And then, to make matters worse, our zombies are only... Remember, they can only move 4 inches on the charge. They are just within charge range, so they're going to pile in and hit these guys. Now, unfortunately for the skirmishers, those 2 shock mean that in this melee, they're only going to get to roll 2 dice. You roll 1 die per combatant, but for every shock, you reduce that by 1, unless you have a special ability, which some fellas do. They don't, though. So they're going to get hit by a total of 12 attacks. Okay, that's a lot of attacks there, fellas. And we're going to roll them over here behind this house, I guess. So 12 attacks. Remember, they are irregular. So they're at -1, but they charge, so they're at +1. So they are going to be hitting on 6s. Wait a minute. We're not rolling d20s for these guys. These guys are green. They're only rolling d8s. Good news for our skirmishers. We're going to have to roll... I've only got 4 handy, so I'm going to have to roll these 3 times. They're going to get a single 1 and a single hit on the first roll. They're hitting on the same numbers, so a single 1 and a single hit on the second roll. We're looking for 6s. And they get 2 more hits. So a total of 4 hits altogether. They roll d8s on the wound check. Whatever you roll to hit, that's what you roll on the wound check. So 4 of those, and they get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 shock on that unit. And these guys, wow, rolling the d8s. But they are kind of sticky because our boys in red are only going to get to make 2 attacks, like so. They are, oh, yeah, right. They are hitting on 5s because they're regulars. And so they get 2 hits. And then we roll to see how many wounds they do. They get a total of 2 wounds. The 1 shock we ignore because they're soulless. And then those 2 wounds do get an 8+ save to see if they are reduced to shock, which means ignored. We get a 3 and a 6. So that means 2 of these zombies are going to be put out of commission. And since we had 2 wounds to none, the zombies are the ones that are going to have to retreat. 1 move, 2 inches. And I'm just going to kind of leapfrog them like this to create that space. Like so. There we go. That's about 2 inches. We'll bring 1 more guy back. So that's it for the zombies. Then we are going to deal with the 8, and that is the regulars over here are going to move up to the wall. Our commander now has to use, he's going to use all of his actions to wipe out all this shock so these 4 guys can hold strong. They're just trying to buy time, hoping that they can last long enough for these other boys to get into position and start blasting away. So that's our commander's action. These guys are going to move, and then it's going to be time for the cavalry to move. We'll roll a d6 to find out where the cavalry come from. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the cavalry come from that road as well. Our infantry move up. They're about a half an inch from the wall, so 1 move action will get them over the wall. The cavalry, you can see, are just coming straight up the road. Man, this is a lot tighter than I expected with everybody coming on the same spawn point. Then it's going to be our skeletons' turn, and our skeletons will charge this unit. And I got to tell you, I think these skirmishers are doing a fantastic job. I think they're doing a real, they've only done 2, but trading the skirmishers for a unit and a half, I think that's going to pay off in the long run. The skeletons now are the attackers. They've only got 5 coming in on the attack, so they are going to be hitting on 5s because they're on the attack. We're going to get a total of 2 hits altogether. Clear those out, and we'll roll for casualties. We get a 3 and a 5, which is going to be a pair of shocks on our skirmishers. They're just holding steady, man. Now our skirmishers, all their shockers removed, they're going to get 4 attacks. Hitting on 5s, they get 2 hits. And rolling to see if they can whittle them down a little bit, they get a 6 and an 8. And that's going to remove 2 more skeletons. With 2 wounds, the skeletons are forced back 1 move. And these guys can move up, but you have to stay 1 inch away. Let's move them up into the space vacated. And I think that's going to be good. Oh, because it's their turn now. Remember, they have 2 shock. If we open fire, we're only going to be able to fire with 2 dice. We're going to charge these skeletons. Now, we are 3 inches tight, so we can get in there. We're only going to be rolling two dice to hit. Oh, you know what? They actually... Oh, I take it back. Remember, every time they fight undead in melee, they take an extra shock marker. So that means they're going to be sitting on 3 shock. We're going to have to roll to see if they can recover. Stand up, you. Rolling 3 dice, every 5 up. Oh, but their commander is nearby. That means on every 4 up, they'll lose a shock. They get a total of a 9, 3, and 3, so they only lose 1 of those shock. And they're still in trouble. Not only that, but they're kind of boxing out these cavalrymen. They may need to kind of get out of the way so the cavalry can get stuck in. Our cannon comes on the 3. I don't know where. I'm going to wait until it's their turn to do that, to figure it out. The queen is the highest card on the board. Recover from Shaken doesn't do our wizard any good, but he is going to be able to make another summoning roll. He wants to summon skeletons. And on a result of an 8, he will be able to do that. This 3 is for these zombies over here, by the way. So let's drop another unit of skeletons down right here. Ciao. And then it's going to be fortunately for the British, they are going to be able to pull back with these guys. Now with 2 shock markers, they're only going to be able to move a total of 3 inches, but that's quite enough. And then next turn, they can see what they can do about clearing those up. The big thing is it does clear up space for our cavalry to charge in and maybe put paid to these zombies. But it's not their turn yet, is it? It's the skeletons' turn. And those skeletons now, as irregulars, they are going to charge the commander. I have to rerun this combat because our commander has a shock. So he's only rolling 2 dice. Well, wait a minute. He rolls 3 dice because he doesn't have any wounds, right? But most units, when they have a shock, they roll 1 less dice. I wonder if there's a book somewhere that can resolve this conundrum for me. Looking at the cheat sheet, it says on melee, remove a die for each shock marker. There you go. So wounds and shock. So it's going to be 2 dice. The reddish dice are for the commander. He's going to get a 4, and we'll call that a 6 for a single hit. The other guys are going to get a single hit as well. We'll roll for wound status. The skeletons deliver 1 wound, and our leader delivers 1 wound. That is a tie. Let me drop a wound marker down on our commander. And on a tie, the attackers are thrown back. You never end in melee. If the number of wounds is equal, see who gets the most shock. Well, he picks up a shock because he's fighting the skeletons, which means the skeletons have 1, and the attacker is forced back 1 move. If a unit is forced back through their own troops, both units gain a shock marker. This force back move ignores penalties from shock. Oh, that's the reference I've been looking for a really long time. That means our commander, falling back 4 inches, is spooking the reinforcements. They don't like that, so they pick up a shock marker. These guys can move up to vacate the space because they're infantry. They cannot pursue a full move. They just move into the space that was vacated. Put our commander card down there. These guys, what am I doing here? I got to keep my bookkeeping tidy here. Next up is going to be the 5 of diamonds. That's our commander. He's going to use his full action to get rid of all of his shock. Is he? No, he's going to do that next time. He's going to use 1 action to get rid of the shock on the cavalry because they're about to go. So he keeps his 3. He says, I'm going to ride. Oh, he's only able to move 2.5 inches. So we'll leave him right there for now. He's going to remove this shock as his action. And now it is the cavalry's turn on the 5 of clubs. And they are going to ride these guys down. We've got 8 light cavalry charging, and they are going to be fighting men with spears. So they charged, but the guys with the spears give them a -1, which means they're gonna be at evens, so they're on 5s. +1 if you have a friendly unit within 3 inches. They do, so they're hitting on 4s, and then that's gonna be it. So we'll roll 8 dice, hitting on 4s. And then we'll roll 2 for our skeletons. We got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, everything but 1. So they got 7 hits on the skeletons. Because they rolled d20s to hit, we roll d20s on the wounds. 7 of those, and if they just get a couple of hits, they got a single 10 is enough that all of the skeletons are gone. But the skeletons do get to counterattack. So we're going to roll 2 dice to see if they can knock out a couple of those cavalry. And on a 7 and a... Let's re-roll that because it's cocked. And on a 7 and a 9, they're going to get 2 hits. And those 2 hits are going to do 1 shock and 1 casualty. We'll pull them off the back. We'll drop a shock. And we need to look at the rules for cavalry because the cavalry have won. They get to make a follow-up move of 4 inches. I just realized this commander, because he's got more shock than wounds, he should have fallen back to regroup. That fallback is going to take him off the table. Every rally attempt made by the British from here on out is going to be at -1. In other words, they're going to have to roll 6s to remove those rallies. And then I'm not going to redo the whole combat, but I am going to drop that shock back down on these guys. I was looking up, if you win in melee, attacking cavalry may immediately make a follow-up single move that may take them, including this follow-up can only be done once per turn. I'm assuming that follow-up does include shock markers. If you've got 8 shock markers on your 7 guys, they are in no shape to do any kind of a follow-up move. But that means, man, you know what? I don't think they want to. Because they're 4 inches away. They're not going to have enough. They can only move 3 inches up, which puts them right here. Although these skeletons are going to wind up crashing into them anyway. So we might as well bring them up to buy those skirmishers a little bit more time. Hey, if you line infantry were like, if you wanted to get in the game at all, that would be very helpful. 3 of spades. In fact, now the zombies are going to pile in. I'm just going to move 2 of them up. We've got a total of 10 zombies left. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 zombies left. Why do we have 12 zombies left? I thought we lost 2 of them. 8, 10, 12. Well, I see 12 of them, so I'm going to roll with my 12 dice. Well, I think they only took shock, didn't they? And they are irregulars, attacking. They're unarmed. They're going to be hitting on 6s. So we get a total of 1, 2, 3 hits on the first batch. For 5 hits on the second batch. And 6 hits altogether. Those 6 hits are going to do a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 shock. 5 shock and 1 casualty, which is honestly pretty devastating. I'm going to swap out my shock markers for yellow tabs. They're going to have a total of 7 shock as we move in to this next turn. The other thing we got to do is bring these guys around. They're going to move up to here, and then we got to bring our cannon on, and they're coming in. Oh, we got to roll a d6 to find out where. But those are just movements, so that's nice and easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the cannon's going to come on the south. And they can come up 1.5 inches. Looking at things from this point of view, you can see our cannon has moved on. They moved up 1.5 inches. They're going to have to spend a full turn setting up. Kind of looking at things down this lane. It's still jammed up pretty tight. These guys moved over. The infantry moved up to that wall. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. Let me deal out a card down here. They are going to be able to go on a 6. We'll go up along this way. Our skeletons are moving on a 3. Our wizard on a 7. The zombies on a 6. Oh, it just occurred to me. I didn't roll for these guys. There were 7 of them. They still need to do their counterattack. And they are going to be hitting on... I take it back. Because they had the 2 shock, they are only going to get to roll 5 dice. Hitting on 5s. And they get 2 hits altogether. And then rolling for casualties, a 4 and a 4 is going to be shock and shock. It does no good. Because these guys did more damage, our cavalry are going to have to fall back a single move. And... force back, let's see, the unit that causes the most, if they're still tied, the attacker is forced back 1 move. So that's going to be 4 inches. We do not apply shock to this, and that means these guys will go to here, and then back 1 more inch. And this is part of why we wanted to get those regular infantry into the hedge here, where they can start opening fire on these guys. And because our zombies won now, it does make sense to bring them up like so. So we'll bring them up. And they can actually move into the space vacated by their enemies. So we'll even bring them up just a little bit further. These guys do still have 7 shock. They are going to run off the table on this turn, but we still haven't figured out when. They didn't do a whole lot against those zombies, did they? The zombies are on the 6. I'm going to show you the card for the cavalry as a 5, our infantry as a 10, and our skirmishers are going to be on a 4. The highest card on the table is our line. They are going to hold because that's going to buy time for these guys to get off the board. Oh, no. Yeah, they can't shoot through their friend. So they're going to be on a hold action. They really needed these guys to get into the woods. In fact, that might have been better. They probably should have just stood there and just blasted away until they got attacked in the woods. Too late now. We're going to leave the 10 there. The 7 is going to be next. That means our wizard still has a chance to bring on a 1. He fails. Then it's going to be the 6 of spades. That is our zombies, and they're going to move up to here to take on the remnants of the skirmishers, who will only be rolling 2 dice. Let me do the skirmishers first because they're hurting. Rolling 2 dice, hitting on 5s. They're going to do a total of 2 hits. And if we roll a 7 and a 1, means they're going to do 1 casualty. So we take that zombie off, and this unit now has 2, well, including the 1, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 this time. So we're going to roll 10 d8. Hitting on, because they charged, we're going to be hitting on 6s. So 4, 8, they get 1 hit altogether, and then 2 more. 1 hit, 2 hits. Nope, just 1 hit altogether. And that 1 hit is going to do 1 casualty. And when you have a tie like that, the attacker is thrown back 1 inch. So our zombies fall back to about here. And I'll kind of bring them around because they were mobbing up. That is the 6. Then we have our cannon, who is going to take his shot. No, they're going to set up. So they're limbered. They're ready to fire on these skeletons over here. Then we have the 5. These guys have 7 shock. They have to regroup. They have to fall back 2 moves. And because falling back... Wait a minute. But now because they're regrouping 2, 4, 6, 7... I think they only fall back 1 inch. Nope. This move ignores terrain and shock penalties. Is it directly away from these guys? Can we bring them and their 7 shock over to here? Can they regroup this in this direction? They're out of line of sight of those zombies. Let's do that because otherwise this game is going to be over pretty quick, I think. So we'll bring them over there, and then we reduce them down to 6 shock. They're going to have some time, I think, to regroup, and maybe they'll do better on their next attack. Then it's the 4 of diamonds, which is these 3 guys who are now, because they're in shock, they're only going to be able to move 2 inches, but that 2 inches is going to take... Oh, they're not even going to be able to get into the woods. On a double move... Oh, they've only got 2 shock. I'm sorry. That's... Oh, no, they've got 3 shock because they fought an undead unit. I always forget that bonus shock, which means every move action will only allow them to move 1 inch. So running away 2 inches with 3 shock to there. And then our infantry finally get to go, and they are going to unload on the zombies. Now, they are at -1 because that was a held action. But the soulless puts them at +1. So, and then, is there anything else? And they are marksmen, so they're going to be rolling D12. There are 12 of them. I've got 10 dice. So we'll roll 2 more. So these are the 2 ones they've rolled. I will roll those and add those to the total. I need to check and see. They have a range of 4.5 inches. They will have to reload on the next turn. It takes a full turn to reload. They are within 4.5 inches. That means they're hitting on 5s. Remember, it's +1, -1. Still hitting on the 5s. They're going to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. All together, 7 hits, 2 1s, they're good. Then we're going to roll 7 wound dice, and they're going to get a total of 2, 3, 4, 5 hits all together, which will eliminate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, knocking them down, knocking the zombies down to just 6 figures. Then these skeletons get to go, and they get to move a total of 6 inches. They are going to charge this cannon down here. 6 inches will take them to within a couple of inches. I did move my skeletons up, and the next order of business will be the highest card is the Jack of Hearts. The skirmishers are not interested in being charged. They're going to fade back 2 inches into the woods, along with all 3 of their shock markers. Then we have the 10 of clubs gets to go next. That means the cannon gets to open fire on these guys. The cannon rolls 3 dice. It re-rolls misses because they're within 6 inches. It's effectively canister shot. They get 3 hits all together. Well, they got 2 hits and a miss. The re-roll becomes a hit. And then they roll 4 hits, and they are going to do a total of 2 deaths. Cannons, I know I said missile fire. The bones get a save. It should be musket fire, not cannon fire. Come on, give me a break. The next order of business, now they are unloaded, and I'm just going to move this over because these guys get the free reload. So there you go. And then the 9 is going to go. So our zombies are going to charge the nearest unit. They're going to roll 68, and this time they are only going to be hitting on, because they're attacking guys that are behind a defensive hedge, it would be 6, 5 because they charge, back up to 6 because they're unarmed, and then hitting on 7s. But hey, you might as well. So there's the first set and the second, so they get no hits whatsoever. The 12 guys hiding behind the hedge are going to be at, come to think of it, they are rolling d8s on this one. Hitting on 5s, they get 3 on the first batch, 4, 5, 6 on the second batch, and then 7, 8 hits all together. That's pretty impressive, except they're only going to be knocking a guy out on a 6 or an 8. So of the 8, they got 2 wounds there, 3, 4, 5 altogether. So there's still 1 guy left. We'll take these 5 out. And that was fighting defensively. So this guy is going to fade back 1 inch. Then it's going to be our horse's turn, and we're going to roll 6 dice. They're going to remove 1 shock for every 7 or higher they get. If they roll more 1s than successes, they fall back. They have to regroup again. I didn't see what that was. I'm re-rolling it. So they got a total of 3 successes. So they have caught their breath somewhat. We'll get rid of 3. That's the end of their turn. Then on the 5, these skeletons are going to pile into here, and they are going to be rolling a total of 10 attacks against this cannon. I still feel like I'm missing something here. So 10 skeletons on the charge, hitting on 5s. They're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits altogether. And 6 hits, they only need 3 casualties, and the cannon is out of action. So there's 2, 4 casualties. The cannon is done. But the cannoneers do get to make 3 attacks on their way out the door, and they are going to be hitting on 5s. They get 2 hits, and for wounds, they get a 5 and a 5, which is going to be 2 shock markers, which does absolutely no good. The cannon is now abandoned, and our wizard gets to attempt to summon his last unit. On a 5, he does not, but he's feeling pretty good, feeling pretty safe, because there's nobody that can get to him. The lone zombie gets to go first. He charges once again, and I'm just going to roll right in the center. He muffs it. He's going to have to retreat. Of course, he doesn't get any shaken results. He's fighting 12 guys, and they're going to get a total of... remember, they're hitting on 5s, so they get 1 hit on the first batch. I got to roll 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5 hits altogether, rolling for wounds. They just have to do 1 wound, and that's going to be the end of the unit. There's the one. Wait a minute. Yeah, the 6 is the 1 wound they needed. That zombie has been sent back to the grave, and they're going to go on the free reload, which means these guys are going to take advantage of the no more shock for me guy Our cavalry are back in the game, at least after the next turn. And then we have our 6, so these guys will use their free reload, and they can take a shot at this guy, I think. Let's take a look at the line of sight. That's where the building is. So we've got 6 guys of the 12 that have the line of sight. They're going to go ahead and blast away at him. Now, bear in mind, he is behind heavy cover. And he is... Oh, is he within? You know what? He's too far away. No, well, yeah, he's been there the whole time. So 9 inches, they're a little too far away. They have the free reload. I guess what we could do is... I guess it's time to bring them out. We're going to bring them up. That's going to be 1 move, and then they can move 2.5 inches. And one of the things I like about this is that these cards are 2.5 inches. So we can bring them up into the center square like so. They're going to line up right about here. We'll give them 4 deep. And they may even be able to have time to form ranks, although they might get roasted by that flamethrower next turn. So we bring them up, stand them up, something like that. And that is that. So then we do have the 5 gets to go. Let me clear up these dice. And he is going to use his actions to roast him. We'll move up to here, so it's pretty clear that he's taking cover. Also, by moving up, because of the way they're lined up, he may be able to catch a few more of them in the blast template. So if we lay it down something like this, we are going to be able to catch 6. Well, depending on how we line it up, if we put it here, we can get 2, 4, 5 with 3 partials. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be 5. And now that I think about it, he's actually a hero. He's going to be rolling the D12s. So we got 5 guys that are going to be hit on a 5-up. And that's going to be 3 hits altogether. And then we've got 3 guys who are hit on an 8-up. We'll call that a 9. So he gets a total of 5 hits. And rolling for injuries is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 1 shock. Is anybody within 3 inches? No, they are not. 5 go down. We're down to just 7 of our line infantry. Then we've got the 5 of diamonds. They are going to hustle on over to challenge these guys. The first 2.5 inches will put them over this, so they can move. Because this costs an extra inch, they're only going to be able to move. Well, we said it was 2 inches to get over this. So they can move 4 inches. They can get up to here. And we'll put a couple of them in the field there. The skirmishers are going to try to recover. They are going to roll 3 dice, and they are going to only be successful on a 6 or better. I got a 2, 9, and 9, so they are down to just a single shock. And that's the end of the turn. Let's shuffle the cards. Come to think of it, I forgot another shock up here for that zombie attack. These guys probably should have rolled 1 less dice on that. Oh well, what are you going to do? For the record, I did have... I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen a single joker. 2 for these guys. King for up here. 9 down there. And our wizard gets a 4. Oh, he really needed to summon that last unit of zombies. This could be trouble for him. The skeletons... Well, these guys get to go first on the King of Hearts. And why don't we go ahead and try to recover? We've got 3 of them. We're going to try to get rid of that last little bit of shock. All we need to do is roll a single 7, and we didn't. So they're still hiding out up there. Then it's going to be our skeletons are going to charge the light cavalry. When you are charging light cavalry, they have an option. Oh, is it just when they're shot at, or is it when they're charged? They may be able to open fire. These guys have a special ability. Where is it? Let me look it up real quick. The light cavalry, when charged, if they pass a 5-up task, they can open fire at half strength and then make a single move. So here it is. We get a 5 up, they get a 6. So they are going to do that. There's 3 of them, so they're going to be opening fire. They're going to get 2 hits, and those 2 hits are going to do a grand total of, we get a 10, 2, and 5. So the 10 is going to deliver 2 wounds. But remember, when you're shooting at these guys, those 2 wounds, they get a save. On an 8 up, they become shocks. So they only managed to put down 1 skeleton, but they are able to move away well, they got a wall in the way, so they move an inch to the wall, 2.5. They can move another inch. What is it? They can move another 2 inches, so we're just going to kind of bring them up to here. I think that seems reasonable. And then because I think that's it for the skeletons who were at +1 to close combat. See that? But I don't think it would have mattered. You can go check the die roll if you want. The next order of business is going to be 2, 4, 6, 7 guys. Oh, we got 2 shocks, so we're only going to get to roll 5 dice. Our line infantry is going to open fire on him. They are hitting on 5s, but he is behind heavy cover, so they're going to be hitting on 7s. The good news is they're rolling d12s on the shooting. Hitting on 7s, they get a 10 and an 11, so they get 2 hits. And let's see how much damage they cause. 2 hits, and that's going to be 2 shock on our wizard, whose turn it is, and who now has a problem because he either has to run away, but he can only move at 1.5 inches. So if he moves 3 inches, I think maybe that's the best thing he can do. If he tries to summon his zombies now, he's going to be at a 9 up until he gets rid of those. So they have shocked him, they've spooked him, they've pushed him back, and then our cavalry get to go, and they get to reroll any misses if they charge, and I think we'll give them the charge on this one, but because they're leaping and vaulting over the walls, we're going to give the skeletons the benefit of the cover. Meaning, these cavalrymen would be hitting on 5s, -2 because the wall becomes 7s, but they are attacking, so it does go back down to 6s for those 6 guys. And the skeletons do not get their saves because they're not in melee. So hitting on 6s, they get 1, 2, 3, 4 hits altogether. The skeletons are at +1 on the wound check. I think I've been ignoring that too. And they do deliver a shock to this unit because they're so scary. But they're going to take 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, leaving just 2 of them. So they fall back 3 inches, and our horse are going to follow up the full move and make a second attack. Now, I said it's after every combat. Is it after every round of combat? Yeah, let's give them another one. So they're only going to get to roll 5 dice on this attack because of the shock that they have. But they're only fighting 2 skeletons. Oh, you know what I forgot? They're at -1 because of the spears. So they're actually going to need a... I'm going to give them the -2 again just to kind of make up for that little error. So they're going to need 7s to hit, and they're only going to get 2 hits. But that 2 hits is going to result in 1 death. So 1 guy still remains, and those 2 skeletons get to counterattack. They get 2 hits, and those 2 hits are going to do 1, 2, 3 kills. Oh my goodness. So that did not... The follow-up might have been a bit of a mistake for these guys. There are 3 of them left with just 2 shock, and they're going to have to fall back 1 move, so we'll bring them back into the field. Like so. And with 2 shock, that's... Ooh, I got to be gentle with the swords, fella. That's going to be the end of the turn. Let's shuffle them up and deal them out. Our horsemen are going to go first on this turn with a big 9 of diamonds. They are too far away to charge. The only thing they're really going to be able to do at this juncture is try to recover. Rolling 2 dice, needing 7s. They don't get anything. That's going to be the end of their turn. Then the wizard gets to go. Now, he gets 1 reroll. So he can summon another unit of zombies, or, now he can reroll misses, or he can try to, but he's only going to be able to summon on a 9 or a 10. He does get a reroll, so do we want to go, I think we roll the 2 dice to get rid of the shock. No, he's got it. You know what? These guys have the free reload. He's got to try and summon those zombies. He gets a 5 on the first, and he gets a 10 on the second. So suddenly, out of nowhere, the last unit of zombies is going to be summoned, and as always, they're going to be clambering. Their action for the turn will be climbing over the walls. With the free reload now, these guys have to decide, what are we going to do? Boy, sure would be handy if we had a leader somewhere nearby that could get rid of those shock. We're going to take 5 shots at the zombies. We're going to space just an inch back. We've got 7 guys with 2. So those 5, that's a D20. What are we doing here? What are we even doing here? You don't know what the D20 from a D12? Amateur hour, man. Amateur hour. We'll roll these down here. So at short range, the zombies are going to be hit on 3s, I believe. Muskets at short range is 5. No, that's all it is. They're going to be hit on 5s, right? Yep, so it's going to be a total of 1, 2, 3 hits. And those 3 hits are going to do a grand total of 5 casualties to these zombies. That's pretty good shooting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it buys our wizard time, to get something done. Then it's going to be our lone skeleton who says, I ain't afraid, I'm going to go ahead and charge in. He is at +1, he's 6, hitting on a 7, he misses, and now he's got to take 3 hits, but he's going to be delivering another shock. I think that auto shock might be a little OP. The 3 cavalrymen are going to be scoring 1 hit altogether on that guy. The 7 becomes a 6, which is still a hit. The 7 is a wound. And just like that, the last of the skeletons is dead. So maybe now our cavalry can see about arresting a certain wizard over here. But first they're going to have to do a little bit of damage control. And then the final thing is these guys are once again going to try, Does it make sense to remove the shock? If you use both actions, can you remove 1 shock? They might have been better off doing that last turn. Let's see what rallying is. As an action, this is the rally attempt. Regulars on a 5, but it becomes a 6 because the leader is out of action. You roll equal to the number of shock markers. If all shock markers are removed, you may make 1 move or 1 shoot. Yep, that's all it is. So we're going to try to remove that last shock marker over here. And on a 1, we got more 1s than successes. They're going to fall back, and they're going to have another shock marker added to the mix. So there, I don't know. You guys did so well. But interestingly, there's only 3 of them left. So can you really blame them with just the 3 of them that are left? I don't think so. Shuffling the cards, dealing them out. Wizard goes first. Oh, we got the high cards. And all the high cards are coming out. So we're going to use these guys. Do we want to take the hit? We're going to use them as... They are unloaded, by the way. Remember, these guys get a... save on melee combat. So do we want to go ahead and fight? Let's fight them one time. We're going to let them go first. We're going to use the free reload. That's really their forte. Unfortunately, this is going to be a total of 7 D8s against 5 D8s. So the zombies are charging. They're hitting on 5s. They get 2 hits. And on the second... Let's reroll. They only have 7. Let's reroll those 3. So 2, 3, 4 hits altogether. And those 4 hits are going to cause a total of 1 death and 3 shock. We'll pull one guy off, and then that we do still get 5 counterattacks. 7 for the guys, -2 for that. Those counterattacks are going to be hitting on 5s, so there's 2 there. So they only get 2 hits, and to make matters worse, they're only going to be causing shock. So with the 1 hit, these guys will fall back 1 move. And they have earned an additional 3 shock. 1, 2, 3. But there's still 6 of them, so all hope is not lost. That was on the king. Instead of waiting for the 6s, we're going to go ahead and use this as a jack, or a queen rather. No more shock for you. We're using that queen, but that's their only action for the turn. And then our wizard is going to go, and he is going to try to remove his shock markers. He is successful on 5, so he removes 1. That ain't so bad. Then these guys are going to go, and they're going to try to remove their 2 shock markers, looking for 6s. They roll 1 more 1, then success, which means they have given up completely. They said, no, I didn't sign up. I signed up for shooting Frenchmen, not zombies. I'm out of here. Then we've got these guys over here with a grand total of 3 shock, and they want to try to recover. They get a 5, 5, and a 1. They need 6s to recover, so they are also going to run off the board. They have had quite enough of this. Thank you very much. Which means it is down to our line infantry versus zombies. The cards have been shuffled. Since we only have 3 units left on the board, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. That means the zombies are going to get to charge before these guys can reload or decide what to do. So I don't feel good about this for the British, to be honest with you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 guys. I'm sorry. So the King of Hearts means it all comes down to the cards at this point, doesn't it? Hitting on 6s, but they charge, so they're hitting on 7s, but they're unarmed, so hitting on 6s. It's going to be 3 hits on the first batch, and then we'll roll 3 more. So 4 hits altogether. Rolling for wounds, looking for 6s and 7s. It's going to be 1 kill and 3 more shock. The British are going to get to roll, but because they are, so 3 shock plus the bonus because they're fighting undead. Maybe we should have done that bonus only on the first round of combat, huh? That probably would have been a little more fair. And then you get over the shock, because otherwise, man, it's just like free hits every time. Come on now. We've got 6 of the British, and they are going to be hitting on 5. So they're going to get 3 on the first, and 5 hits altogether. So rolling for casualties. And remember that they only hit on, basically they're looking for a 6. So they get no hits whatsoever, no shock. So they are going to be forced to retreat 1 move. The zombies move up just a little bit. And now when they take their action, these British regulars, what is it going to be? It is their turn, but they've got 4 shock. And 5 guys, what do you do with that? I think you have to try to recover. I don't see any other options. Looking for 6s, they get 1, 2, 3. So that at least they're down to just 1 shock, but they're not unloaded. They're going to be fighting, and it's not going to be a fair fight because they're both rolling d8s. I just think they're in trouble. And these guys, because they move up, they're going to be able to continue charging every turn. Our wizard is going to get to go, and he says, you know what, I got to recover myself. I'm going to take 1 action to get rid of my shock. He is encouraging, so he can do that. That's going to be the end, and we're going to shuffle the deck and see if we can't get something a little better. A free reload sure would come in handy for these British right about now. But of course, it won't help them out at all. Look at that. If the zombies go first, which they do, so they're going to have to fight another round of combat. And this time it's going to be 7 on 4 because of the shock. So we'll roll for the zombies first. And they're going to get, as always, hitting on 6s. They're going to get 2 on the first batch and 3 altogether. So rolling for wounds. With these guys, they're going to get 2 casualties plus another pair of shock. 1 for the shock and 1 for, I can't believe we're fighting zombies. Now we're only going to be rolling, because they started off with, was it 4 shock? 1 shock. They're only, the British are only going to be rolling 4s, but they hit on 5s. So they get 2 hits altogether. Needing 6s or 7s, they get 1 more kill. And because they lost, they're going to have to fall back again, 1 move, 2.5 inches. So they're almost out of space. If we pivot around here to see. And unfortunately, now they get the free reload, but all they can do, and these guys move up, all they can do is try to recover the shock. 3 guys, 3 shock. And they're going to be able to get rid of 2 of them at least. Thank goodness for that roll. And now our Blastum Mage is going to be able to move 2.5 inches and then another half inch. He comes out of the cemetery. And we need to shuffle and deal 1 more time. I think maybe a +1 close combat might come in handy for our British regulars. As much as, well, no, they need to shoot. They need to get a higher card. They're going to get to roll 2 dice to shoot. Shooting on 12s. You know, if they can wipe out 4 of those guys, they might be able to make this work. Cutting the deck, and I'm going to go right to left. So there's a 5, a jack, plus, whoa, it's just the complete opposite of what they were hoping for. Not only are the zombies going first, but the zombies are going to be hitting on 6 because they're regulars, 5 because they charged, 4s because of the card, back up to 5s, and there are, at least there's only 6 of them now. So 6 of those guys are going to get hitting on 5s. That's going to be 1 hit, and then 2 hits, and then rolling for shock. We'll re-roll that one. They get 1 kill and 1 shock, which means these British are now, it's pretty much over for them. They do get to roll 3 attacks in return, in retaliation, and they're hitting on 5s. No, they only get to roll 2 dice because they started the combat with that shock. So they get 1 hit, and that 1 hit is only going to deliver shock. That's nothing. And so our wizard can run up. But on the next turn, these 2 guys, well, they fall back 1 move, and that's going to put them right on the border. But they now have, because of the bonus shock, they have 3 shock and only 2 guys. They're going to have to regroup, and that means they're going to run off the table on this next turn. Any way you slice it, the game is over. The British were able to slaughter all but 6 of the zombies, but they weren't able to arrest the Necromancer. So the Necromancer has taken over the village of, what was it? Pufflechurch? And all in all, I think the scenario works. I wanted to show you how easy it is to mix and match genres and bring in kind of a silver bayonet fantasy black powder with this game because it is so smooth. You got to be a little bit careful. I don't think you want to mix black powder with medieval because there are some wonky rules that work well within a genre but not cross-genre. For example, our British regulars here have to reload between every shot, but a medieval bowman does not. So if you're going to mix and match that way, you got to think about how you're going to deal with it. Maybe these guys have a +1 to wound because we're dealing with projectile fires, with, you know, black powder weapons, right? I'm presuming that a weapon in the 1800s is more effective than a weapon in the 1300s. And if you want that reflected in your tabletop game, you got to think about it. For example, I wanted my zombies to have a more modern headshot feel. That's why I gave them the save. Well, the skeletons anyway, right? They're mostly bones. You can't just shoot them with a musket ball. You got to club them over the head. So they got the save on the shooting. These guys are easier to shoot in the head than they are to club in the head while they're trying to eat your brains. That's why they only got the save on melee attacks, which, you know, come to think of it, I wasn't rolling that. They probably should have been rolling some of those saves. Although I'll say this, that save doesn't do as much good for these guys because they're green. And even without that save, even though I forgot it a lot, these guys really just kind of chewed their way literally through the British regulars. So fun game, very, very robust, very forgiving of guys that play solo and forget rules from time to time, very forgiving of mixing genres. And I invite you to give it a shot yourself because we've really only just scratched the surface. Oh, one last thing I forgot. Had the Joker ever come up, and let's take a look here. I'm really kind of surprised he never did. I'll prove to you that he's in here somewhere. There he is. There's the Joker. If he had come up, I was going to bring this fella out of the church. This is the local priest slash vicar, and he would have been a hero with 3 wounds, but he's unarmed, so he's kind of weak, but he is also encouraging. Had he come out in one of those first couple of turns, not only would the narrative have been more fun, but he would have been able to wipe out a lot of those excess shock markers. That was part of the balancing. Yeah, I know they're grabbing a lot of excess shock because they're fighting undead, but we do maybe have an ally coming out to start wiping out shock. Didn't happen, but it could have. And I think if you played this scenario through, a dozen times, I think it would wind up being 5-7, 6-6, really close. I think it works well. Robust system. Give it a shot. Fistful of lead, bigger battles. I'm praying for you.